Welcome to Politically Basic. I'm your host, Kyle Campbell. As we always do, we're breaking down the basics of all political issues and current political events so that you get to decide. On today's episode of our newest series, Newsom Nonsense, we're digging into one of California's most important issues, a sector that few understand well, but that is critical to public safety and quality of life for residents. We're covering the Department of Corrections, the prison system, criminal justice, and public safety. And to do this conversation justice, I've got Hector Bravo on the show with me. Hector's a combat veteran and experienced law enforcement leader. He served as a U.S. Army infantryman and deployed to Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom II, conducting direct combat missions against enemy forces. After an honorable discharge, he joined the California Department of Corrections, building over 16 years of experience in maximum security environments. Advancing from correctional officer to lieutenant, Hector led through riots, assaults, and critical incidents, serving on and later commanding the tactical response team as a tactical operator and hostage negotiator. Grounded in battlefield leadership, he believes effective leaders balance mission success with the care and development of their people, and he remains deeply committed to mentoring the next generation in honor of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Hector, welcome to Politically Basic and to Newsom Nonsense. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Well, this is going to be a fascinating conversation. I can't wait to get to it. Let me first say your name sounds legitimately like a call sign. Is that your real name?
My real actual full name is Hector Bravo Farrell.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Amazing. Well, it's a good, strong name.
Absolutely.
And you, sir, have had quite the resume serving the United States and the people who live here. So first, let me say thank you so very much for your service. You've been all over the place, from the Army to the Department of Corrections here in California. Tell us a little bit, let's catch my viewers and listeners up. How did you go from one to the other?
I started young, 17 years old. I enlisted in the Army. The year was 2001, 2002 timeframe. I was a senior in high school. 9/11 had just transpired. The war in Afghanistan had kicked off, and the war in Iraq was brewing. So right time, right age, right personality. That's how I ended up in the Army. I'm from a small town, Brawley, California. So that's another way for me to get out of my small town, was to join the military. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I would find myself in Iraq in 2004 after the invasion.
Wow, amazing. What was that like? I mean, how long were you there?
I was there for 13 months with 1st Infantry Division in Balad, Iraq. And that was insurgency, guerrilla warfare, rocket-propelled grenades, ambushes, roadside bombs, IEDs, indirect mortar fire, indirect rocket fire, and then car bombs. Towards the end, they started hitting us with car bombs. So it was very real, very fast at a very young age, 19 years old.
And then you came straight back here to California, or did you continue?
I did. I came back in 2005, and I hit a rough patch in my life as I was trying to, piece together the pieces of what I had just experienced overseas. And there was from the year 2005 to the year 2006, was a lot of soul searching and a lot of bad decisions. But at the same time, I was aspiring to become a law enforcement officer. So I was going through the process of joining the California Department of Corrections, which I would eventually get to go to the academy November 27 of 2006.
Amazing. So you were making bad life decisions that could have potentially landed you in hot water with the Department of Corrections, and then you ultimately end up working for the Department of Corrections. How did that come to be?
Yeah, I was making bad decisions, right? And I got to accept that accountability. And disappointing my parents at the time. But it came to be because I'm not a bad person at heart. I'm a good person, and I've always had the drive to help. And the adrenaline seeking of law enforcement. I like the ideas of catching bad guys or chasing bad guys. And I figured what better place in the California Department of Corrections. But I think ultimately it's because my father was a correctional officer. So just like any son looking up to their dad, I'm pretty sure that was a motivating factor.
Yeah. I'm guessing you had a little bit of a different experience with it than your dad did, though.
Yes, 100%, because he became a correctional officer in the year 1993. In the year 1993, California was going through the three strike laws. The gang banging was off the hook in Los Angeles and throughout California. It was a whole culture. It was a whole vibe. So they were locking away and throwing away the key to all these gang members and gun enhancements, gang enhancements, 20 to life sentences, life without parole sentences. So that was the beginning. I joined in 2006, where I like to say I caught the tail end of that era. And I joined like when overcrowding was at the peak. I mean, bunk beds on the day room floors of housing units, gymnasiums full of bunk beds, full of inmates, every cell packed. So there was thousands and thousands and thousands of inmates. So like when there was riots, they were really big riots.
So tell us about your time doing that. I mean, what did you see happen? Did that change the overcrowdedness? What was your experience like? How was that time period for the state of California in terms of public safety? Do you think that was a good thing that we were locking away so many criminals and gangbangers and drug dealers and all of that? Or was it too harsh? Like, give me the download on all of that in your experience there.
Excellent question. And, I have the beauty of hindsight and I have the beauty of experience. And I do talk to former lifer inmates today, and I interview them. And excellent question. I believe the whole three strikes you're out law was, how can I put this? A little too harsh. And the way I say a little too harsh is because there are actual stories of individuals, stealing a slice of pizza and three strikes you're out, life. Now, that's not to say that they should not be held responsible or accountable for their actions and consequences, but at that time, lifers were not paroling home. Okay, I need the public to understand this. This was a very dangerous and volatile time because there was zero hope amongst the inmate population. Meaning, and I was 22 years old observing this.
Yeah.
22, 23, observing these older men and young lifers. I mean, there was young kids in there, 20 years old with life sentences. And let me tell you something. When a man has no hope, all bets are off. All bets are off. Violence was through the roof. It did not cross their mind what to cause harm in another individual, to take another individual's life, because there was, how can you punish somebody when they've already been punished to the max? So it was kind of a double-edged sword. At that same time, the prison gang leaders, okay, these are the members of the prison gang organizations such as the Mexican Mafia, the Nuestra Familia, the Black Guerrilla Family, and the Aryan Brotherhood. They were locked away in Pelican Bay State Prison and Corcoran Shoe, a security housing unit, where in essence, 23 hours a day they're in their cell, 1 hour they get to go to a little yard.
Whoa.
For upwards to 20 to 30 years. Right. And the idea was behind that push was like in the 80s and the 90s, these individuals, so-called gang leaders, which they were the leaders, were causing chaos amongst the population. So I guess they looked at it as chop the head off the snake mentality, and they put them away indeterminately for 30 years. Now, if you ask me, looking back in hindsight and with my experience, that was also excessive because I've had conversations with some of those men after they got out. But starting to see where the real problem lies in California and in the California Department of Corrections and in America, I can tell you right now, the so-called bad guys are not the so-called bad guys.
Well, say more about that.
It's the individuals that you see wearing suits up in headquarters, Sacramento. The politicians, the administrators, the managers. And the beautiful thing about social media is like people like me, regular people, can utilize their experience and network and expose the truth. It's like, hey, I was in this situation. I seen these people who are supposed to be the good guys making purposely deadly decisions in order to further an agenda, further their career path, or gain monetary value, which is illegal and unethical.
It seems like our criminal justice system, particularly in the state of California, has gone through so much change that when you look at it as a political issue, which it is, I mean, it's a public safety issue, it's a humanity issue, really, at the end of the day. And one that affects all of us, right? Like, we live in this country and we pay our taxes and we try not to break the law because bad things will happen. There's a certain pattern that we grow up knowing. You walk the straight and narrow, or else you have a negative consequence. And those levels of consequence have gone up and down over the years. You're talking about a time when there were very harsh penalties, going to prison, going to a home situation that's locked down, and basically no time out of a cell or out of a room. Very extreme consequences. It now comes to pass that we're living during a time when there does not seem to be consequence for anything, or
Correct.
Certainly that there is a protected class of person in the sanctuary state of California where they're never going to get busted for anything.
Correct.
So I think you make a very valid point, right? That it's the leadership that is getting away with a ton of fraud and crimes and, getting away with murder, so to speak.
It's documented. So it is self-manufactured problems. In essence, then they create a solution, and it just so happens that their family member or cousin owns the solution, and then they funnel money, such as fentanyl. Haven't you noticed that I don't know if you've noticed, but they give Narcan to the inmates. So it doesn't, from my experience, politicians, governors, administrators of CDCR, knowingly and willingly understand that inmates are getting high on fentanyl, okay? And instead of stopping the fentanyl problem, you just buy more and more Narcan. So people are getting paid over the cost of human lives. It's a money scam. Same with the homelessness, same with the illegal aliens. It's all connected. And I'm a California resident, like you stated, for 41 years now. I think I know what's going on around here.
You do know what's going on, and I'm going to ask you some dumb questions now, because first things first, what's CDCR?
California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
Okay, that's a pretty important department. How are inmates who are locked away under careful watch getting fentanyl inside a cell, or getting it passed through to them to take?
Through visits, a female visitor will bring it secreted in a body orifice. Through dirty staff members, so corrupt staff members, that could be correctional staff, that could be nurses, that could be free staff. And the latest and greatest is drone drops. So those were real huge in 2020. They'll actually fly a drone overnight and drop a package. The package will consist of drugs and cell phones, lighters, chargers, etc.
And the prison guards don't see this and take custody of those drops?
So they'll disguise the drop as like a football, and it'll just look like a football is on the prison yard. So to the regular eye, it just looks like a. Or what they'll do is they'll get a manila envelope and they'll put Elmer's glue all around it, and they'll roll it around in the dirt. So when it drops, it just blends in and camouflages.
Stop
with
it.
dirt. But yes, there are ways and means to attempt to prevent those.
Hector, that is wild. Criminals
They're
are
not
smart.
dumb.
No, they're smart. I mean, it takes so much creativity and intelligence and brain power and strategy and planning to come. Who would come up with this stuff?
Well,
It's
that's why
wild.
if and when they finally get their lives together, right? Because some of them do, they actually thrive at
Yeah.
whatever they do, like entrepreneurship.
Well, they've worked hard in prison to get around the rules. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's talk about the state of CDCR today, where things stand. Because we've gone, as you mentioned, we've gone through a lot of, movement of just what things have looked like, policies and the laws in the state that have changed and have affected how law enforcement busts people, who goes to jail. Judges are problematic today. They're not prosecuting anyone. No one's going to jail for anything, it seems like, anymore.
District attorneys.
Yeah, we have empty suit district attorneys. They are not really good for much.
Well, you got to understand what happened.
Okay, give me the overview.
The overview, from my experience, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and luckily I feel that we're bringing it back. Luckily, I feel that enough people are listening and catching on. In my experience, around the year 2012, okay, because that's when I started to piece when things started to go haywire in the United States of America. I believe, and Alexander Soros, son of George Soros, recently posted a picture with himself and Gavin Newsom on his Instagram and on his Facebook. So I'm not too far off the mark. I'm not too far off the mark. Right? There's no reason why they should be taking pictures.
No, they're best buds. They looked very chummy in that picture.
So back to my original saying, I believe in the year 2012, some very important people with a lot of money wanted to see the destruction of the United States of America from within. And I've had very important people tell me, Hector, they could never change the law, but they could hire people that did not enforce the law, such as sheriffs, or I know sheriffs are elected, but such as, like you said, judges, district attorneys. You know, we had that whole LA thing. And at the time, I'm going through it, so I don't realize what is going on. And the changes were kind of incremental, right? And then, you know, COVID happened. The whole push on agendas, the whole push on equal rights, so to say. And let's talk about the media fueling the fire. And it is pretty safe to say that in the year 2026, 98% of Americans, I would hope, have caught on to the media's game and realize that, hey, they're not unbiased. They're very biased and they're very one way. And they will push the narrative that they want to push against all facts. So that's what happened. That's what happened. Unfortunately, California is like the tip of the spear. You know, a lot of people look down on California, and I love California. I even got it tattooed on my arm, but that was back in 2004 in Iraq. But there's a lot of great people here. There's a lot of great humans. There's a lot of great Americans, and not everybody is on board with the propaganda. And I'll tell you one thing right now, man. Even the criminals are not in favor of the chaos and the disarray. And I say this because you asked me, what is the current present times in California, specifically CDCR? I want you to imagine, this is probably going to be historical, the most out of control, violent, and chaotic the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation has ever been in its inception. That's a fact.
Why?
That is a fact. Because they fueled the perfect they fueled the perfect storm. Zero consequences for inmates' behavior. Meaning, in the past, if an inmate was caught in possession of a shank, a weapon, a knife, they would go to the administrative segregation, the hole. Now they do not. They remain on the yard with zero consequences. So enough times of getting caught with a knife, eventually an inmate's actions will escalate. And we've seen it. We've seen, so far documented, there's been 101 murders within the California Department of Corrections since December 2022. That's when I resigned. That's a fact. So these inmates that are getting caught with knives, they're not going to the hole, ADSEG. They're not being segregated. So what do they do the following day? They kill another inmate. Like, they're just escalating their behavior. And that's just one example. Assaults on staff, attempted murders on correctional officers have risen. Murders against other inmates have risen. There was one successful attempt of a level 4 general population inmate by the name of Cesar Hernandez, who escaped from Kern Valley State Prison while being transported to the Delano courthouse. There's video of him running across an empty lot with 2 correctional officers who have since been fired as a result of that. That inmate escaped to Tijuana and killed a Mexican police official, female, by the name of Abigail Reyes.
Whoa.
And you hear a peep from CDCR. So not only is CDCR not not enforcing consequences for inmates' behavior, but they are retaliating against their correctional officers for blowing the whistle and being ethical and having integrity. They are lying to the public about what is actually happening. And instead of worse than lying, they're actually spinning a false narrative, which I have been combating for the last 3 years with evidence, documentation, video, and photographs.
Hector, break this part down for me. What is the purpose here? If you're saying, certain people in positions of political leadership want to see it this way,
Yeah.
we're just so far off track from any kind of even like rehabilitative step up program that we used to think that the prison and correctional department had to give these inmates an opportunity to get paroled, get back out into free society and contribute and stop criming. So what went sideways and why?
So you'll notice I have not even mentioned the inmates as being a problem, not once. It's almost like if you have a family household and the parents are out of control and just violent and outrageous, like the child is going to do what the child's going to do. You can't really knock the child for growing up in a dysfunctional family. So basically, CDCR administration is the dysfunctional family. The people that are suffering are the inmates and are the correctional officers at the troop level, at the bottom level, lieutenant and below, where I was. And people ask me all the time, Hector, what is the incentive? What is the incentive for people to do this, to push this narrative? I'll break it down to you simple. Again, I spent 16 years as an employee, 8 years as an officer, 3 years as a sergeant, and then the rest as a lieutenant. Every individual person, right? Personalities are all different. Let's say I have 2 years as an officer and I'm scared of inmates. There are correctional officers that fear inmates.
Sure.
I mean, to the point where they shake in their boots. If somebody tells me, hey, do this, and I will give you the rank of sergeant. So in other words, they reward the brown nosers, per se. I'm pretty sure I could say brown nosers on this
You're
channel.
fine. You could say a lot worse. That's okay.
Keeping it rated G for you guys.
Thank you.
So it created and fostered an environment of rewarding the worst employees and punishing and firing the best employees. So, I mean, yeah, people should have their own morality and ethics built into them. But if you're coming into the job at 21, 22 years of age and you've never been around any type of leadership or management or seen any type of violence, you're kind of just going to be led into oblivion, to your own demise, right? Because you can't trust a snake. The very same people that are rewarding you with a promotion are the very same people that are going to stab you in the back. I've seen it over and over again.
Help me understand why they want it that way. Wouldn't you ideally want a team working there everyone's working hard, everyone's on the same page, you're keeping inmates under control, you're accomplishing, your goals, you're meeting your objectives, everyone's in line. Why let it go so sideways, and why would you want that?
Let's compare it to Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany was a thing. There were actually Nazi soldiers. There was actually Hitler. There were actually Jews. There was actually this, right? One would say, hey, why wouldn't the regular soldier stand up against the regime, stand up against the machine? It's fear tactics. They have instilled fear tactics into their employees where they have no choice but to follow suit. Let me rephrase that. They feel like they have no choice but to follow suit. I have been resigned for 3 years. I personally have received 7 to 9 search warrants as a civilian into my electronic data because they're trying to see which active employee is in communication with me and allegedly sharing information with me. Like that is a length that they are going to suppress the truth. So to break it down in basic humanity, ego, right? If I'm the secretary of CDCR, which is the highest position, and I get appointed by the governor, so it goes like this. George Soros, Newsom, Secretary of CDCR, employees. I'm going to just do whatever they tell me to do from the top. I'm going to push the filth down. And they're going to not have a choice but to swallow the whole filth whole, or they will be fired. They will be retaliated against. It's a fact. And it's in a sad state because I've been trying to get through to these officers for 3 years and letting them know, like, hey, you don't have to be quiet anymore. You don't, regardless of what they're doing, and I see what they're doing, do not be afraid of them because good will always outweigh evil. That's a fact. Good will always win. So basically, in a nutshell, it's a battle of good versus evil. Straight up.
Well, absolutely. It's so fascinating. What is the point of not trying to move people out of incarceration? Isn't it more expensive for a state-run correctional department to have every jail cell packed full? Wouldn't they be financially incentivized at the least to move people out?
As far as like common sense and actual logic and successful implementation of a system, I can almost guarantee you that is last on their radar.
Wow.
What's first on their radar is how do I promote to the next level? And that's basically what it boils down to. How can I better maneuver myself and survive this career? Has nothing to do with rehabilitation, has nothing to do with the inmates.
And do you think Gavin Newsom just doesn't care? And we know Alex Soros doesn't care, but in terms of Newsom's motivations here for the system to like look a certain way, or to have a data set that looks a certain way, or when no one really talks about this. I'm glad we're talking about
I do.
Yeah, no. I'm glad that you do, but I'm in terms of exposure to the broader community and statewide and nationally about what's going on. Do you think Gavin Newsom, as the governor of the state, ever has any kind of concern over the fact that this is just the biggest dumpster fire pile of, smoking trash ever?
Absolutely not. I was going to say that Chad Bianco said it best recently on a podcast interview that he did. And Chad Bianco is the current Riverside sheriff running for governor. And the question asked of him was, why does Gavin Newsom hate Californians so much? That was a question. And Chad Bianco answered with, it's not that he hates Californians. It's that his love for power, money, and greed blinds everything else. So that is your answer right there. He does not care about what people think of him. And let me tell you something about narcissism and psychotic traits. You do realize I've worked around psychotic individuals for 16 years, right? I've come to realize certain traits that people possess. And let me tell you, they're not all freaking criminals in blue jumpsuits. Some of them, again, are wearing suits in Sacramento. Friends that are psychologists, and they're like, Hector, yeah, these people that you see at the top of these organizations, they are functioning like they have the functioning like psychopath symptoms. That's how they get there. So it's, lack of emotion, lack of, it's very simple once you break it down to good versus evil.
No, it is. And you're exactly right. I'm well versed in the different pathologies, and I do believe especially Gavin Newsom might be suffering from one or two of those. And it makes sense, right? Why he would be unconcerned with what's going on. And then you leave the system and the entire department in the hands of people who are running it like, a mental hospital in what is that, Clockwork Orange or whatever that movie is. They're on their own. It's like it's all. No one's keeping an eye on things. It's amazing, Hector, that you lasted as long as you did. And, God bless you for speaking out, because that's not good for anyone there. It's not good for people who are employed there. It's certainly not a healthy environment for anyone who is trying to move their way out of being incarcerated there. On the other side of it, it does seem that our current set of judges, especially in the state, is very hesitant to put anyone behind bars. I mean, jail is just not a scenario that you hear about very often. Are people being incarcerated, or is it just not happening very much anymore?
I just started laughing because Earlier today, I saw a video clip of a San Jose police officer run over a suspect in San Jose, downtown San Jose. So I'm like, it doesn't matter if judges want to put him away or not, because the cops are going to do what they have to do per policy and procedure. So I really feel, and this is what we refer to as the pendulum back in the day. They always said, Hector, the pendulum swings back and forth. We'll get real liberal and soft on crime, then we come back hard and we sweep. The crazy thing is ever since I had joined law enforcement, the pendulum only went one way. I always said it broke off into the Pacific Ocean.
It seems like that. It seems like that.
But is this 20 years later, the pendulum we're starting to barely see swing back? Because what a long 20 years that was. And how many victims had to suffer as a result of doing the right thing. Again, I kind of host a podcast, and I've been given the opportunity to speak to former lifers, former juvenile lifers, former gang members, former gang leaders, and come to realize that the judicial system is messed up. Go figure. The way that they sentence people, the way that they don't sentence people, the way that they add enhancements, the way that they just try to crunch numbers just to make numbers add up for the sake of making numbers add up. So that in itself is an issue, right? The judicial system. Now, judges, it boils down to morals, values, and ethics. And it boils down to the knowledge of the law and the willingness to apply the law unbiasedly and blindly, just like Lady Liberty. So that's the way I look at it. You have radicals, right? You have, again, it comes down to personalities. In a perfect world, if somebody committed a crime, depending on how many prior offenses they have, they would be sentenced accordingly. I would take their age into consideration. I would take programs into consideration, right? You have never heard me say Hector's belief system is to punish all criminals, lock them up and throw away the key. Because I've seen the result of that. It's violent.
Do we have programs, in your estimation, Hector, that are good and worthwhile in the state here to kind of put people or send people as maybe a half step to prison and to jail? Does that exist? Those programs exist right now?
It truly does. It does exist, but it's the implementation on how it is rolled out. Okay. So you cannot force somebody to rehabilitate if they do not want to rehabilitate. You cannot do that. So one of the major reasons you have seen the violence increase in California prison system is because they are forcing the hand. They are mixing general population inmates, regular gang members, with protective custody inmates. Your child molesters, your rapists, your informants. Their own rule system dictates that they cannot live amongst them. So they are going to violently attack them, up to and including death. Now, does that give them the right to? No, it does not. But as a correctional peace officer, we swore to uphold the law and our oath to protect life, all life, preservation of life. So just as I would not mix two betta fishes on purpose so they can kill each other, or open every cage in the zoo so the animals could kill each other, is the same way I would not mix general population inmates with protective custody inmates. But that's what they're currently doing.
It used to be that if someone had been convicted of child molestation, it was kind of widely known that they might be the first to be picked off when they get behind bars. Is it just a free-for-all now, or is there kind of the hierarchy of who gets shanked first?
We're almost to a free-for-all. It's almost free-for-all. And for your viewers that are watching, because I know what they're thinking, who cares if the child molesters get stabbed and killed? Who cares if the GPs and the protective custody kill each other? Well, here's the kicker. You know what happens when they get tired of killing each other? They turn on the correctional officers, which I have been involved in. They become desperate. It becomes survival at that point, where every person is trying to survive regardless of the facts, circumstances. I've been around a lot of correctional officers that have been stabbed as a result of all of this shenanigans. Oh, I've been involved in numerous attempted murders on on peace officers.
Well, it sounds like what is happening is we're just breeding killers who get used to violence. And then, heaven forbid, you get somebody in leadership like Zoran Mamdani, and I've been using him as an example a lot lately, the mayor of New York, who does not believe in a prison system, who believes that incarceration is inequitable and inhumane and just completely unfair, and that we should not have that. And so, heaven forbid, Hector, we get somebody in charge and says, let them all out after they've been stabbing each other nonstop all day. I mean, what do we do at that point? I guess
I think we should lean into our Second Amendment extremely hard at this point. God bless our amendments.
Well,
But, I've even had former lifers. And again, the type of person I am, Hector Bravo, is like I can communicate with anybody. Police officers, former gang members, former prisoners, like current correctional officers. The majority of these men that spent 20 years behind bars, they said, you know what, Hector, I needed that. I needed that time out. I needed to go sit down for 20 years, grow up like a man, experience all that violence, and understand, man, I messed up. And then they come out and they thrive. They become members of society. That is from the horse's mouth.
There's a way, right? There's a way to do this right. So you mentioned Chad Bianco. We love Sheriff Bianco, great guy. We also, we love Steve Hilton. We've got these impressive, committed men running for governor. We got a couple yahoos running around in there too, who think that they deserve the job. Hector, if you were speaking directly to Sheriff Bianco or directly to a Steve Hilton, and they said, we really want to build the pathway forward for fixing and resolving the issues within the prison system and the criminal justice system in the state of California, what would you tell them that would look like?
It's kind of funny because Chad Bianco knows who I am. We're almost in communication. I mean, we could be in communication if we wanted to. I'm letting him do his thing. He's probably letting me do my thing. But it's a very high possibility that I could be appointed the secretary of CDCR. Like, that's how that works. The governor appoints the head person. I would just say, hey, guys, like whoever, I'll be like, look, you need a no-nonsense approach. You need a realistic approach. You need to talk to both sides of the fence, to the cops and to the bad guys. You need to have conversations with the cops and the robbers. You guys need to figure out what's going to work or what's not going to work, implement a set of rules, and then stick to them. But I've also understood that, at a very young age in the poverty-ridden cities, like as far as opportunities, right? Opportunities. We gotta get through the youngsters. The young men per se, in particular, because one thing I've noticed, when you're a young man, you have testosterone inside of you. You have adrenaline inside of you, and people go to the military, people go to law enforcement, and people join gangs because they're searching for something. That's where I would address the problem.
You want to channel that energy in the right direction. Absolutely. So admirable too, and such a need. I think especially here, we have these communities, you see a lot of them around LA, where you just have young people who are kind of left to their own devices, right? And it's so easy for them to make those bad choices because they are so available and around them all the time.
And one more other thing that I would focus on, which I'm kind of glad we've gotten away from, and I had been guilty of it too in the past, is the stigma behind somebody who had served a lot of time in prison. If they come out and if society writes them off, hey, you're a scumbag, you're always going to be a scumbag, look at you. That's not going to foster any positivity, right? So I like to let it be known, like, hey, some of these men change and are thriving. I mean, thriving in society. Good parents, good employees, good leaders, giving back to the community, right? So it's a double-edged sword. Like, you got to hit them in the beginning, and then you got to hit them in the end.
Yeah.
It's a societal thing.
Well, the more you're talking, it's making me think of conversations I've had about how we utilized and gave the opportunity for incarcerated men during certain fires we've had here across the state to serve in that way. And what they talk about is that these men who are currently behind bars say that is a coveted opportunity, that they work hard to be able to be one of those men that goes out there and fights these fires and helps keep people safe and saving, animals and neighbors. And I think that what I'm hearing from you, Hector, is just so hopeful that, just like how you want to point these young men chock full of testosterone and looking for guidance in the right direction, that these inmates can also be given those opportunities to reach a higher bar in their life.
Earlier.
And yeah, exactly. But I mean, if even for those who are currently, serving time, that they just need somebody to say, hey, like, we know you can do better. We expect that you do better. And here is the way to do that. And right now they're just not even being given any kind of way to earn their way back into free society.
Well, earlier I told you about that there are programs such as the fire camp program, but I also told you that the implementation is all messed up and backwards. So there is no reason why an inmate with 9 years or 10 years on a sentence of domestic violence or battery with serious bodily injury should be housed on a low facility fire camp program.
Yeah.
There'd be no reason. But this is why you have what they call walkaways, which in essence is an escape, right? They escape. And why wouldn't they escape? They're sentenced to 10 years. There's no fence. You could just walk into the woods.
Well, one problem leading to another, Hector. I don't know.
So yeah, there are inmates. It should be incentives, right?
Yeah,
You've been clean for this long. Yeah. You've dropped this many points. And the funny thing is there was a system in place. There was, up until the leaders destroyed that system, which we just covered throughout this whole entire show.
Well, it's so nonsensical. You're talking to a woman who just really likes to follow a logical path of information. And this kind of stuff drives me crazy. It sounds like it kind of drives you a little bit crazy too. It doesn't make sense. Why would you get rid of a program that is benefiting the inmates and rehabilitating them and giving them these opportunities? But, we were talking on the show earlier about the homelessness issue. And I've been asking everyone the same question. I'm going to ask you the same question about Newsom here in a minute. But this expert who has had a lot of hands-on experience with the homeless in LA was saying, Gavin Newsom went out there and, picked up some trash around an encampment and ordered Caltrans to start picking up. They're paying them like $75 an hour, allegedly, to go pick up trash. I know this has been a topic of controversy a little bit, but I would love your thoughts. It's like, to me, we used to see the inmates picking up trash on the side of the road. We used to see people doing community service as a very, very light punishment. And then they're entered into the conversation, well, that is harmful, or that's too burdensome, or we are putting inmates to work and that is indentured servitude, or whatever people wanted to call it. Don't you think there are better ways to utilize their time sometimes in a manner that could give back to the community, make us safer generally, or do some good in the world? I mean, is that even happening on any level?
It is happening on certain levels. For instance, the dog program, where they will train dogs, service dogs, for individuals with disability, post-traumatic stress disorder, seizures. So yes, inmates will train service dogs. So that's helping, on a global level. There's other programs like that. But as far as like them going out to the community, when I first started working for the Department of Corrections, they would go to the parks and pick up trash and drugs that people would hide for them in the trash. But anyways.
Of course, footballs everywhere. The sports park was their favorite.
But
drugs for everyone.
I had never even considered, having inmates clean up homeless trash. To me, that would just be a security issue all around.
Sure.
I frequent downtown San Diego often, and I personally would not like to see inmates in and around downtown San Diego, because there's a lot of movement.
No, it makes sense. I'm sure there are challenges around.
What really grosses me out is the feces on the side of the sidewalk, the urine, and then actively smoking crack or fentanyl, like not even trying to hide it.
No, it's supported. I mean, the state services, especially in areas that are hyper liberal like San Francisco, they support it. They are handing out the drugs, the needles, the paraphernalia. They are making spaces for people to engage in this activity. It's enabling to an nth degree this kind of behavior that gets you that result, and that is why our state, that is the fourth largest economy in the entire world, literally looks like a third world country.
Can I let you in on a massive secret?
Please.
And I just thought about this. There are 30,000 peace officers within the California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation. That is the third largest law enforcement agency in the United States. I believe it's like Border Patrol, NYPD, and then CDCR.
Wow.
The Union for Correctional Officers is called the CCPOA, right? Which I was once a union paying dues member when I was an active employee. The dues are roughly around $115 a month per employee. So you do the math. 30,000 times $115 per individual, millions, which goes to a little thing that we call the Executive Council. The Executive Council is made up of about 5 or 6 individuals that started their careers as correctional officers and kind of, rubbed enough elbows to get up to Sacramento and wear a suit. So let me tell you who's in bed with each other. The union president, the secretary of CDCR, and the governor. Let me tell you who funded Gavin Newsom's recall election. CCPOA did. And you can find that on the website that shows who donated money to the campaigns.
Really? Explain that one for me. You mean funded his opposition to the recall?
Funded helping him through the recall.
Beat the recall, yeah.
Beat the recall.
Yeah.
Along with Kamala Harris when she was whatever that position was that she was here, Attorney General.
Well, she was and she did a lot of harm through policies that she put forward having to do with criminal justice. I mean, she just wanted to...
These politicians need money. They need funding. Mm-hmm. So who is funding them? Correctional officers through their union, which I've been pleading to correctional officers for the last 3 years. Hey, guys, stop paying your dues. You are funding your own demise. All those homeless people you see in LA, downtown, San Francisco, San Diego, you're doing that.
Yeah.
You're doing that. So I'm showing the world how they're funding their own demise.
All of these episodes I've been hosting, these Newsom nonsense episodes, almost every single one is talking about unions. And here, specifically in California, unions run the show.
Follow the money.
Wow. We're going to do a whole episode on it. I'm committed at this point. Hector, what is one thing, as we're kind of coming to the conclusion of our time here, but this has been so fascinating. I've learned a lot. I want to learn more. Tell us one thing that you just wish every American knew about this, about the corrections department, about how things run. You've given us a lot of great information, but if you could just say one thing to this whole country about what's going on here, or what the fix is, or how to approach it, what would you say?
I'll say I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she's well aware of being nice to people, being respectful, and doing the right thing. We got to go back to basics. We got to stand up against the bullies. We got to address something even at the sacrifice of ourselves, right? We have to sacrifice ourselves for a greater cause. I think we were silent for far too long, to include myself. And we got to bring it back. We got to bring back morality within America and the world.
Yeah. Basics is my favorite. All right. Well, that was very, very excellent. The one thing I really enjoy asking all of my guests on Newsom Nonsense, Hector, lay it down for us, your favorite, or should I say least favorite piece of nonsense from Gavin Newsom.
Right off the top of the head when he was dancing like that during the Palisades fire.
Oh.
It was kind of weird. It was extremely weird.
Weird is an understatement. He is he's a very wiggly human. He has very odd physical movements. Yeah, a lot of side to side.
Out of it.
There's that song Side to Side. I think it's Ariana Grande. I'm gonna have to start playing that for him. Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a very mental, emotional, physical connection with him. And when you're not in control of yourself mentally and emotionally, it's hard to keep your body under self-control as well. So,
Yeah.
well, let me ask you this too. I mean, let's try to be balanced here. Let's give it a little fairness. What would you say is the best thing that Gavin Newsom has done for the state of California during his tenure as governor?
Oh, I'll be honest right off the top. Nothing. Nothing. There's not one thing that I can say, hey, thankfully Governor Newsom did that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
All right. An honest man for you, team. We appreciate that. Hector, this has been absolutely educational, fascinating, mind-blowing at times, and I thank you for all of it. You are a great human. Thank you for the good work that you're doing and speaking out and caring about the people of our state and this state itself. You're a hero. We thank you for your service again, and I hope you'll come back on the show again in the future. We'd love to have you back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great, and thank you all so much for joining us on this episode of Politically Basic. We stay committed to breaking down the basics so that you get to decide. Be sure to check us out at politicallybasic.com and follow us at Politically Basic on all socials, and so you don't miss a single episode. And we'll see you next time.